Welcome to the Amazon broadcast of Converge PoE. We're doing our best of 2019 live streams. So we went back and looked at our best live streams from YouTube and Facebook in 2019, and we're going to summarize the best content from the videos and bring you up to date on where the guests and the techs are today. I am Tyler Andrews, your PoE guru. And let's get this show started right away. All right, so we were looking back, and I'm going to bring up my little title here. We were looking back at some of our best live streams from 2019 to see what went well and what we could do better. And we started looking at these top live streams that were just really popular on Facebook and YouTube. A lot of people came to them, really had great participation. And we realized that there was some important stuff we feel is really worthwhile to just go back and get up to date on, because that information was so good then, it's still valid today, and we're going to get some cool updates from what has changed and where the tech is today. So, most importantly, I'd love to get your feedback on what topics you'd like us to cover this year, both on Amazon, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever. Do you want to see more streaming technology? Do you want to see more digital buildings? Or do you want to see something totally new we haven't covered yet? Now, the interesting thing is we took a Facebook poll, and from all of our top live streams in 2019, of the top 3 topics, PoE lighting was by far the favorite. So we're going to hit a lot on PoE lighting today, but what would you like to see us do? Hit us up on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Put it in the comments on Amazon. We'll still get it. Or shoot us an email and let us know what you're up to. So, without further ado, let's see Converge PoE's best of 2019. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start with a video, the third place video from our competition of what got the top live streams. And I'm going to throw this title up here so you can see it. We did a whole live stream around using an iPad as a camera, and most specifically as an NDI video source. So just a quick summary, when we went back, we found back then there were issues with using a GF Lightning PD, our GF Lightning PD, this product here, and I'm going to show it here on Amazon so you can see it, bring that up. There were latencies issues, but technology has changed. So let's see what the video said back in 2019.
I tried the cameras for OBS, and spoiler alert, they were not materially better than the NDI cameras. In fact, both the NDI cameras were slightly better, in my opinion. So I'm going to bring up a video here to show me setting up this iPad. So you download the app onto your phone or tablet, and a quick note here, make sure to enable the camera and microphone. It took me a day to figure out why it wouldn't come on. The app gets upset if you don't do both. And then a quick note here, Chris, you were talking about the latency. You need to sacrifice a little quality for speed. We found that the quality bar on the app, when it was at its maximum, it was getting a little laggy to vMix. And let me see if I can show you what that looks like. I'm going to bring this up. This is me trying to do a balance setup on latency. So here's my hand. I'm just snapping it here. You can see it's a fairly balanced. It's definitely not great for sports. If you're doing like really fast, you can see some of the loss with your hands. I'm going to show you how you actually bring up as an input into vMix. You simply come down to input, you pick an NDI capture, and then here it is. You just select the item and bring it on. If you're playing around with multiple apps like the old NDI app and the new NDI app, don't try and run them both on one iPad. It starts really confusing OBS and vMix, and it gets the cameras all confused. So this is the NDI HX camera from Sienna. And here's the bad news. This is one of the better, like if you look at the latency, I'm going to wave my hand over the top. It gets very good latency to OBS. Let me see if I can get my hand in front of the camera. I'm not sure I'd recommend having 4 or 5 iPad cameras all trying to run on the same NDI network. You can see I'm getting some latency here. So if you can see the screen here, basically it says that you need NDI 4 SDK. In vMix, I called Tom over at Streaming Idiots, and Tom said vMix cannot support NDI 4, which the new app requires.
All right, cool. So you got the background of what was going on in 2019. So what's news? So the most prominent news is that we found out that starting June 1st, NDI's new NDI HX camera on iPad is free on iTunes. You could go and download it today, no cost. Go out and do it. I mean, it's a $15 app, whether you use it today, whether you use it tomorrow. I don't care. Just go out and download it because it's a free app. You can't say no to a free app. Now, there are a lot of videos and articles on this topic about what's new. And it was announced earlier this month that surrounding quarantine orders and COVID-19, people are really jumping on this opportunity to live stream. So you can layer on other assets such as screen capture, NDI devices, lyrics, and it's really popular. And frankly, when we did our testing before, even the NDI HX camera was on OBS, or Open Broadcast Software. Now, one of the things that we talked about was that we were concerned about the latency with vMix, and it couldn't integrate with the NDI HX camera. The good news is the newest version of NDI and the NDI HX camera is now compatible with vMix and OBS. Now, we were worried about the latency, so we did a retest with the NDI HX camera, and we did a test with the Belkin PoE to Lightning adapter. Does PoE in, does Lightning. This is supposed to be a 300 meg device, and we redid it with our GF Lightning PD device. And the reality was we didn't find a big latency issue, and they work great. So check this out. So I'll throw this up there. You could see now I got this camera right here. This guy over here. This guy over my. This is actually a stream from an iPad that I'm pointing to right there that is streaming. I do have my audio synced up with my microphone, not with the iPad, but you can see the resolution is really good. I'm actually quite impressed. So the GAF Lightning PD, I've highlighted it here on Amazon so you can see it. It's on Amazon. It's working great as an NDI input. So I would say go for it, guys. Whether you're doing OBS, whether you're doing vMix, a lot of other options. So I'm checking the chat line. Do you guys have other questions about live streaming with an iPad and what you want to do with it? So kind of quiet out there. That's totally cool. My job is to inform and to entertain, not to necessarily wait for questions online. So I'm going to take off this guy here and this guy here, and we are going to talk about the next topic. So changing topics, I had mentioned before that by far our most popular videos in live streams were about PoE lighting and automation. In other words, the digital intelligent building. And we actually had 3 very popular shows, one with the Sinclair Marriott team, who have gone and done some interesting things, and two with the Igor building automation team. I'll talk about Igor in a second. But I want to start with the highlight reel from our interview that we did with Hannah Walker and Nathan Galbraith, the team who helped realize the Sinclair Marriott. This was a hugely popular show. If you're watching this right now, get out a pen and paper. You are going to be, this is noteworthy. Take it down. We're going to make videos of this until the end of time. So let's hear from Hannah and Nathan.
I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on both of you on our show today, because everyone out there, these two are the boots on the ground making the PoE happen. So I'm hoping you guys will give us the inside perspective on how a PoE building comes together.
So we're doing all of the lighting. We're doing all of the powered motorized window curtains and shades. We're doing all of the door locks. We're doing all the typical like cameras, access points, all that stuff. We're doing our electric mirrors in our bathrooms. So it's like a mirror that has a TV. You can play music. You can order room service. We're doing our mini bars. And we are working very closely with LG. And for our next project, we should have the televisions and AC power, air conditioning, VRF units, also PoE. So that's kind of our next step. We weren't able to get that in time for Sinclair.
Now, out of curiosity, do you mind sharing what prompted the decision?
Farouk owns a few other hotels in the area. One of the hotels was just built, I think, 3 years ago. And during the construction of that, he wanted to put in a smart lighting system so you could dim the lights and do everything like that. And so spent the money, installed the whole thing. But when it was time to turn everything up, it just didn't work. The installers were reporting that the manufacturers, saying the installers did it wrong. And it got to a point where Farouk just got fed up with it. And he said, fine, we'll just not use it, and I'll come up with my own way to do things. And so that's what started his dive into PoE lighting. And then once he got rolling with that, it kind of just opened up a lot of doors for other fields to go into. And just basically started with lighting. Then he realized, okay, we have 60 watts on the Cisco switch. What can we power with 60 watts? And so VRF air conditioning cassettes fall into that range. We had, for a little bit, a full-size refrigerator running off of a PoE port. And we're just kind of talking with different manufacturers saying, hey, your product only takes 45 watts of power. Why don't you try to make it PoE?
So I would say besides the energy savings, by putting in a completely PoE infrastructure, you save a lot of other things up front, including electrician cost, because it's all low voltage, conduit, space in the IDF. So there's a lot of cost savings up front, but a lot of Cisco switches, our CDBs, we've been running here for about 3 years, and we haven't had any issues with them at all. I know there is a end of life for Cisco switches, but I think that the energy savings in this building, when we replaced, this is our office building, we replaced 3 floors of PoE lighting. We have a CVS on our first floor and second floor. And when the total energy savings from the transformation we did, we took out our old air conditioning system and did VRF. And then we powered all of our switches with digital electricity as well, which is another technology we'll talk about later. But we've saved about 30% energy cost. So I think it does recoup. I wouldn't know exactly the one-to-one cost savings, but it's a very dramatic cost savings.
Yeah, and a big part of it is since we did just start doing this just a few years ago, we haven't gotten to the point where we've needed to replace any of our PoE infrastructure. But I know that some people don't want to use Cisco because it is a little bit more expensive. But there are other PoE manufacturers out there that make, yeah, who'd have thought, make other, more affordable and just as good if not better, equipment. So
Oh,
there are
listen, you
ways.
say that.
Yeah.
To know, did getting permits for something this new cause a problem?
We had the entire every city official basically come to our office when we installed everything here, and what we did was we had an IP phone, and it was plugged up to a Cat5 cable, and then whenever we unplugged it from there and plugged it into a light, and the light came on. And so right now, the city of Fort Worth, it says that every light fixture has to be installed by an electrician. And so when we did this demonstration and we said, does an electrician need to plug in this IP phone? Then the city officials were like, no, that doesn't make any sense. So they gave us basically a complete approval to do this PoE lighting and other PoE devices without having to have electrical inspections. There are no codes right now regarding PoE, at least in the city of Fort Worth. So that's why they had to give us a variance on a code, because changing code is not very fast or very happens very often. But they gave us a variance on all of our projects.
We have been using GPON, so we have an ONT in every guest room that serves 2 guest rooms at the same time. But then we also have a copper network that controls all of our PoE technology.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Cisco switches in each guest room, and it is all tied back to a main switch using copper.
But what's powering the Cisco switches? Typically, it would be traditional AC. What we're doing is powering it with another technology called digital electricity, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's a company called Volt Server. So they send energy, but in packets. So that's why it's called digital electricity. They send, I think it's 400 packets a second. And so the electricity is pulsed down a copper 2-pair or 4-pair, and then it reaches the destination, which what you see right now is the transmitter. And those are the racks you see. Those are powering all of the lighting, motors, mini bars, mirrors for our entire project.
The Volt Server technology is one of the key components into being able to create a digital building or a fully DC powered building, because the energy that comes down those cables is touch safe. Mm-hmm. You can't hurt yourself touching it. It's not going to start any fires by sparking. It doesn't arc like AC power does. And you can even send that power on a 18.2 just speaker wire. You can send about 1,100 watts of power up to 6,500 feet.
So what you see here, it's a little messy, but every single guest room has either 1 or 2 Cisco switches, which is what those 2 black boxes are. Those are called digital building switches. They don't have fans. They're plenum rated, so it's really works for the guest room because they're not going to make any noise. What you see to the left of the picture, another black box, that is our ONT, which is part of the PON network. And that's going to be connected to the fiber and then all the access points and the televisions in the room. So that's going to give us the internet to the guest. While the Cisco switches on the right are going to give you all the PoE power, lighting shades, etc., everything we've talked about. And then you'll see on top of the black Cisco switches, there's a little gray box, a little hard to see. That's the Volt Server receiver. So we're pulsing that power from the basement, which we saw earlier, all the way up to that receiver, which is then powering the Cisco switches. And then you see another black box on top of the second shelf, and that is a Kohler product called DTV, which is a digital thermostatic valve. So basically, our showers are all digital as well. We have just a touch panel that you go in and there's no handles. You change your water temperature, you change what head you want to use. And those are not PoE right now, but they only take about 25 watts of power. So we're going to work for our next project to make those PoE as well. So we're in a typical guest room. Those are our wall controllers that we've developed with New LEDs. The company that makes them is called 4D Systems. But we've integrated with all the lighting and shade. So you saw she selected a scene on there. She selected the Good Morning scene, and it opened everything up, made it nice and bright. We've got a couple other scenes on there.
This is the 4D touchscreen. You can see if I wave my hand in front of it, it's got a proximity sensor, so that when the guest walks up, they can it'll come on for them. It's a touch screen, so you can see we've got a bunch of custom-made buttons on there. You've just got an on-off button and then some scenes. We can also do some things like control the window shades on here, and just pretty much anything we want to do. We can program it on this controller, and we can do it. And the nice thing about these is it is just a Cat5 cable to the back, and it comes off of, I've got the New LEDs driver here as well. They've got some ports on the back here that power the wall controllers.
So obviously we have our own lighting manufacturer that we actually manufacture all of our lights custom. Amazing. They're Estelle's Lighting. They're out of Houston. They're approved Marriott and Hilton vendors, so they're a great partner if you want to make some amazing custom fixtures. New LEDs is our LPOE lighting driver company. We have Somfy window shades, of course. We have Dometic, which they make our mini bars. And we have Electric Mirror. They are our mirror company. Who else do we have? Asa Abloy makes door locks, and they're all PoE.
Some other lighting manufacturers that we've been working with include, the driver manufacturers include Igor, Platformatics. They've got some good stuff out there as well.
So our sensor company, they make Bluetooth sensors. They're called Ivani. And they basically take a traditional occupancy sensor, which may be motion-based or maybe infrared, and they replace that with Bluetooth sensors. And so you're creating a Bluetooth mesh in your environment. And then when you walk through it, you're mostly water, so you disrupt that mesh, and it can tell you that someone's in the room. And they can do a lot with this technology. They can do people counting. We're working with them on doing geofencing. So they have a lot of kind of capabilities that they're working towards. We're working with Meraki access points.
This is a Cisco company.
Yeah, they're Cisco. So we have two cabling companies. We primarily work with a local company called DMI. And they're doing all of our in-room cabling and fiber. And then we had another company that we're close partners with, but they're out of San Antonio. That's TerraBridge.
We've been working closely with Superior Essex. They actually make the PowerWise cable, which is a 22 gauge Cat5 cable. So it can power some things that a normal Cat5 wouldn't be able to. One of the important things to know about the wattage for these PoE fixtures is that however much wattage you have coming out of your PoE port, that is your budget for your fixtures. So it's not one fixture to one port. It's 60 watts to X number of fixtures. So right now we have a lot of fixtures that are 4.5 watts. So we can get about 10 to 12 of those usually on a single port. And you can adjust the levels of those to get more if you want. If you want less light but more actual fixtures, you can get them on there.
Depending on your lighting driver manufacturer, which ours is New LEDs, so they have up to 8 channels on their drivers. So we can potentially individually control eight or more fixtures completely individually. And they don't have to be daisy chained together. They can just be wired into different channels. So what we've done in the hotel is we put the switches in every room, and that way the runs are just from in-room to in-room, and they're much shorter, and they're much easier to pull, and makes it a lot more accessible for the maintenance to know exactly where the switches are for each device. So that's the direction we've changed to, and we found that it saves tons of money on copper, tons of money on labor because you're not doing these huge long pulls, and we can actually also determine the exact length of every cable before we do the room. So we can buy pre-terminated cables because we know that it's only 20 feet or 30 feet, and then we buy that, and during install it makes it so much faster. Well, we actually are using a company called Opterna. and they make these really cool products where they put fiber in this spool and in a little box. And so you pull the fiber out of the spool to where you want it to go, and then all remaining fiber stays spooled up in the box, because it just keeps cable management and keeps the fiber protected and just makes it really easy to, keep it nice and coiled in the box, and you just pull it right out to the length you need and the rest stays right in there. Every high-rise building is required to have backup power, and it's typically in the form of a diesel generator. And that gives you emergency life for elevators, lighting, stairway pressurization, anything that falls under the UL code of 927. So it is required to have 2 hours of emergency backup. So
And that's 924.
924. We found this system, which is called the ESS system, Energy Storage System, and it had another UL stamp. It didn't have the quite correct one that we needed, but when we saw the system, it had a lot of the same features as what you would need in a 924. And so we were saying, wow, this is great. Called UL, said, hey UL, we have this idea. We want to make UL 924, we want to make it lithium ion. And we have this great product and we think it'll work. And they said, hey, that's a great idea. We'll send our engineer to China, or he's a Chinese engineer, but he went to Korea and he tested it. And he said, this is a great product. Let's put it on site and test it here. And we're able to get the UL stamp on it about a month ago.
Yeah.
So this is the first battery system that is a UL 924 rated lithium ion battery system. And it's sitting right in the Sinclair. So yeah.
Getting configurations recorded and stored and creating a database for those for your facilities is going to be more and more important. We need to get better as an industry and as service providers at how we capture and give to our owners and to users like Hannah and Nathan and the people we work with records of what their configurations are.
We do have a database, and we wrote all the configurations for our property ourselves. So it's easy for us to keep it and store it. But the interesting part is going to be, we aren't the ones managing the hotel. Marriott is managing this hotel. So it's a whole learning curve for your facilities team, because it's going to feel a lot more like IT than it is facilities, traditional facilities.
What did I tell you, or what? Fantastic information. You can't pay to get consulting information that is that good, and you cannot pay to get consulting information that is that good now, today, because I reached out to Hannah and Nathan for an update. Let's see what they said they're up to.
Hi guys, this is Hannah and Nathan from Sinclair. Since you last saw us, we have opened the hotel. It was beautiful, grand, and then closed it because of COVID. So unfortunately, that's where we are, but we did get about 3 months of guests. We were having great occupancy. People were really enjoying the technology. That we were getting great energy efficiency. So I think it's a really good start for our first all PoE hotel. So that's the update on our Sinclair project.
Other than that, we've been doing a lot of other things on our own. We started up our own, another company, Sinclair Digital, to design and consult for other low voltage projects. And we've gotten a couple different clients and contracts for that. And we've also continued to kind of push the envelope as far as what PoE power can do. So we're looking into a lot of different things like PoE motors, so that we can power fan coils and anything else really that has a motor in it. And then also we're looking into using supercapacitors to replace batteries for a couple different systems like hair dryers, maybe irons, and even elevators in a building.
So stay tuned for some more crazy PoE stuff. Bye.
Bye.
I'm telling you, you can't get information that good, and now the Sinclair team is actually doing their own consulting. So take this information, put it away, save this video. You're going to want to look at it again. I promise you that. And to add to that, let me know. Hit the chat lines. Tell me, do you want to see Hannah and Nathan again? I bet $20 I can get them on the show, and I'll take you up on that bet. So now let's move on to our most popular show with Igor and PoE Lighting. This show, wrong title here. I'm going to bring this one up. Igor has been our most popular shows by far, and they do their own PoE lighting and automation system altogether. So their product is the control system that controls the lights. Now, the cool thing is you can use any light fixture, you can use a ton of different sensors, and Dwight is going to cover that. So let's hear from the live stream we had back in 2019 with Dwight Stewart, founder and CTO of Igor Technologies. Everyone I talk to at shows and online wants to know more about PoE lighting.
And the approach that we've taken is to make this, more of a plug-and-play system, even in the software, so that you can create plugins to create automations and interactions between these different devices. And by doing that, instead of it being this custom solution every time you do a building, it can be more of something that's repeatable with plugins and integrations that you can just go project to project. Typically with lighting control systems, the bandwidth is very narrow. And so you're going to send little bits of data to turn on or off lights. And that has to happen very quickly, more in real time. Well, Power over Ethernet IP networks can easily handle that. But then the advantage becomes, you have all this bandwidth, now you can leverage a light as a hub for data to connect sensors and actuators to that can do much more. So that's the real benefit of Power over Ethernet lighting, is that it can do any protocol. You can multiple protocols at the same time over an IP network. It's real time, high bandwidth, and it's plug and play, very agile. And with our technology, we can daisy chain one node after the next, and we can connect multiple things to one node. So now you can load as much as you want, as much as you have power available. And then we have even a new node that can go up to 90 watts per port. So the light behind you consumes anywhere from 20 to 30 watts usually. So just imagine, you're getting able to, a very nice fan of white moment there. And so, just imagine you're able to get 2 or 3 of those lights on one home run. And those sensors that you were pointing to also, they consume maybe 2 watts, 1 watt, but hardly anything. One of the things that we also have on our newest node, going back to the data question, is USB port. So just imagine you install the system, and then now, a year from now, you want to put some sort of device in that's available via USB. You just go to a nearby light, connect it, and now it shows itself via our API, and you can use that data however you want. Nodes can be programmed with just stating the make and model of certain lights or of certain attached devices, sensors, and it will automatically adjust that node to the appropriate settings. At 30 years equivalent testing, that we still had no failures on any of the nodes. Typically, an AC/DC driver inside of a light lasts maybe 5 years, 7 years. 5 years is typical warranty period. And LEDs already pretty much last forever. They'll degrade over time, won't produce as much light for the same amount of power. But overall, with our solution, you have an Igor node, which lasts 30 plus years, and then an LED array, which lasts quite a long time, and you remove the battery. So now you just made it a no maintenance type application, and once again, reducing total cost of ownership, which allows you to spend your money more wisely on things that really matter. You don't have to necessarily have the same labor class even installed, right? Because instead of it being a class in the UL spectrum, there's class 1, 2, and 3. And that high voltage above, I think it's 60 volts or 55 volts, is where you enter that higher voltage level, which has to be installed by an electrician. But this is a class 2 device, which can be installed by just anyone that's uncertified, and so it really opens up the installation capabilities. as well as the safety where, let's say if you want to move a light around, you're in a retail space and you want to change your floor layout, you don't have to go through this huge planning exercise. You could move things around much more freely and then be able to click, just unclick the socket and move that light, click it back in, not have to worry about getting electrocuted. Or
I always like to point out to people too, usually the biggest problem with putting AC or the AC outlets up there in those spaces or an AC location is it's a one trick pony. You get one use out of it, where a network cable up there doing the same thing. If I'm tired of having a light there, I pull it off, I plug in a camera, it'll do a camera.
I will say though, with Power over Ethernet, there's a whole negotiation process. So when you first have a wire even hanging out of the Power over Ethernet switch, if you lick that, there's actually almost no power going over the wires at that point. You have to plug it in. Then the Power over Ethernet switch negotiates and sees a little amount of signal basically coming from the device it's plugged into. And if that signal indicates that it's a Power over Ethernet device, then it will elevate the power, then it will go through a further negotiation. So really, it's safe the whole time. Personalization, I think, is a major component of where the smart building can go. So if you walk into a room and you have macular degeneration, for instance, and just poor eyesight, well, now the light could elevate up and help you. Or if you are susceptible to migraines, which really could be triggered by too much light, well, then the light could go down for you. There's been studies that whether it's seniors that are in the senior living communities, we're doing that whole sunrise to sunset and having the color of light as well as the dimming change to emulate what's outside. Emulating that inside actually improves memory for seniors, and it enhances and helps with healing within healthcare. You can also, to our node, attach aromatherapy or sound and other things, right? But creating that full experience and in that environment that just makes you feel more calm and collected, and a lot of times your mental state will impact your physiological state and thereby help you heal.
One of the things that PoE Texas is doing to make PoE lighting and these types of products more affordable is we're working on a managed PoE midspan. And to your point, you've got this beautiful, very expensive, nice switch. It's configured for what you want it to do. This is the PoE Texas managed midspan. Allows you to add up to 80 watts of power per port on a device. You could just slide into the rack, but it doesn't fiddle with the data. I'm using this switch here, which happens to be a PoE switch. This switch is communicating the data on the network, and it's just adding power to these red cables.
As a safe school initiative, we have gunshot detection sensors that we can attach to the lights. And now something goes off in the hallway. Imagine that the lights that are down a certain part of that hallway go red, showing that this is the epicenter of the event, and other lights in the other areas stay green or just stay normal white color, whatever, but they could flash, they could pulse. There's different effects you could do that symbolize certain things. And then we've also hooked up buzzers and other types of audio alerts so that people know what's going on. And then on our node, you can hook up, one example of how efficient the cost can be for this is if you get a strike plate or a mag lock for a door, that's a simple analog one that's you just feed it voltage and it turns on or off. That costs maybe $30. If you get a power over Ethernet door lock, it could be $1,000. So by just connecting up one of those inexpensive devices up to a nearby node, which you're already using a node for a light, so really it's just the cost of that device. And now you can add that as well so that you can do a lockdown on the doors, let's say, that are nearby the event, so people can't get into those classrooms that the gunshot just went off in.
Reality for commercial and some residential applications is you have to have a lighting designer, and that's a big hurdle for anybody doing less than 10,000 square feet. I mean, unless you can afford a $15,000 or $20,000 lighting designer, that becomes a problem. We could help manage that process for small users. And you could come and say, I've got this 5,000 square foot space. I got this office, that office. We could help put together a package for you that would be comprehensive, get your input on the light fixtures, and then supply a one package, just a pallet with all the right stuff. Belden and Siemens Cat 6 cables are rated for 100 watts specifically, and they're a lot thicker. Berktech has the Landmark IP, which is a Cat 5e cable with an extra thick conductor inside, specifically for high wattage 4-pair PoE. And Superior Essex also has their PowerWise 1G. Both of those are supposed to be good cables that are Cat 5e rated, and the difference between the Cat 6 and the Cat 5e is the amount of data, the transmission that they can handle is lower. They're not rated for the 10 gig data center quality data, but they are rated for the thicker cable to allow you to handle more of these infrastructure applications that aren't data intensive, but they are power intensive. Go for a certified cable, whether it's UL, ETL.
In 2003, when I started my last company, only about 5% of buildings had advanced control systems. And we fast forward today, and about 5% of buildings have advanced control systems. Nothing's really improved. And that's pretty dramatic. The reason being is that it's been a focus on cost savings, is put this into your building. There's some immediate applications you can do right now that are going to enhance your business. Breaking down these, what have been silos, that's where real-time data and using and having responsiveness with your environments and allowing someone to interact with their environment in a new way, passively through, let's say, Bluetooth, or actively by pulling on a chain or something. All those things create this the opportunity to bring them together in an autonomous way. Digital transformation of customer experience is what I really call it. And that transformation is going to be applied to everything in your life. And we've seen it over the last few decades within the internet, but now it's starting to bleed over into the physical world. And that's going to enhance business. It's going to enhance your way of life. It's going to reset your expectations for how you interact with things.
Obviously, there's the light. There's this guy here. The system is made up of these general components: the PoE switch and power source, the gateway, the nodes, the attached devices, and then any kind of control interfaces you would like to have.
UL 924 requires that the emergency devices themselves have to be UL 924 listed. So our node is UL 924 listed. However, the different components that, as long as the components don't change their function in emergency mode, then they just have to be powered with a UL 924 source. You got to make sure that the power connected to the power over Ethernet switch is UL 924 certified. So either it's from a generator, it's from an inverter, from some source that satisfies that requirement. Requirement of the lights have to turn on within 10 seconds during an emergency, and ours turn on within 5 seconds, as well as you have to have 90 minutes of emergency power.
A mid-span in the backup power supply is a better alternative than some of the higher powered PoE switches, only because higher powered PoE switches often will take a little bit of time to actually boot up and configure and start communicating, where a mid-span, the mid-span is a very fast alternative to provide the power and get it up going very quickly.
What can I say, y'all? Fantastic information. Those three videos had some of the best information we've done all year. They were amazing. I spent over 5 hours trying to just figure out what I could distill down. So I did catch up with Dwight again this week, and he gave me an update on where they are. And this is kind of fun. Spoiler alert, he's going to spoil some stuff. So hopefully he doesn't get in trouble with his team for spoiling it. But let's get in there and check out where Dwight is today.
So lots happened in a year. It's amazing. It's not much time, but we're definitely moving quickly and doing a lot of things. So where to start? Obviously I'm working from my home right now just because of the changes in the world, but it's really showing that smart buildings in general are a really important part of a business, and this whole idea of digital transformation that's taking place in businesses is spreading now to the workplace. And so it's really, helping accelerate our business. And we see that in the way that we built out our technology. It's not just for lighting. We are doing a lot of other things for IoT. And so some of the new integrations that we've created are for heating, ventilation, air conditioning. So we can actually act as a virtual thermostat where we can connect directly to, let's say, a VRF or a PTAC unit, which would be inside of a room. It could be in a hotel room. It could be, serving a number of rooms in an office area. Also integrated with a touchscreen that is the same form factor as a wall control that's typically in a, like a wall switch. And that provides a lot of context where you can see and control not only your lights, but change to a mode where you can adjust your HVAC settings as well. And ultimately, it will provide other contexts such as shade control, which we also have now natively integrated to Somfy and Mecho Shade and a number of others. Then try to think, door closure contacts, almost any kind of sensor you can imagine at this point, we are integrating with. So with that kind of data and we can now do some amazing decisioning based on that. And we've created a plugin system that's based on the data that comes in and the context. We can create small snippets of code and just load them into the system, and they can become behaviors. So for instance, if someone gets out of bed in a senior center, as they get out of bed and there's a bed sensor in their bed, we can take that and then have a behavior that for that bed sensor, what room is it associated with? What lights are associated to that room? And of those lights, which one are tagged as night light? Turn those on to 30%. And you can see how that statement could just be one line of code, and you compile it, you upload it into the system as a plugin. And now all you do is associate things in the system, bed sensors and lights to rooms, and tag the lights that you want to turn on when someone gets out of bed. Just tag those as night light. So we have this concept of tagging, and it just makes things simple and easy to understand and to manage. And if traditional controls, you'd have all sorts of code everywhere, and it would be hard to know what code was doing what and to make changes. But in our system, now you can just see these are the list of plugins, these are the list of behaviors. If I no longer want that behavior, I can either untag a light as night light, or I can unload a plugin. And so as the world moves to having an incredible density of devices per square foot, as well as diversity of devices from all sorts of different vendors per square foot, it really needs to be that simple to create integrations and automations and behaviors. And these plugins can do all of that. They can do integrations, they can do the behaviors I mentioned, they can do user interfaces where we can have apps that are effectively in our application. And so it's a pretty exciting time for us to be able to have all of these components that are quick to deploy. A couple other little teasers that, we now have integration to products that do heartbeat sensing, heartbeat monitoring from a distance using microdoppler or breathing rate microdoppler. So it's, the sensors that are coming out and the data that we're now able to bring onto the platform is just incredible. Specifically for COVID-19, Igor is taking the initiative. We're trying to do what we can to help out for the situation. We're in a very unique spot where we have all this great data and a quick to deploy turnkey kitting ability for solutions. So we're taking that capability that we have as a technology and as a company, and we're going to be debuting here in the next couple of weeks publicly a solution. So I don't want to give away too many details, but it's going to be very exciting. It's a disinfectant solution that is solving for that can be kitted and solve for very specific use cases like conference rooms and huddle rooms. which are really the high touch areas that are within facilities and offices. So by creating kind of this room kit that does disinfecting and can also manage and reduce the number of people that are in those rooms, we're going to have an offering that is going to make a big difference to help people in this time. And so we'll have a separate webinar here very soon to talk about all the different details and how we're making that happen.
Awesome to hear from Igor, hear what they're up to, and I love they're addressing the COVID-19 situation. That's awesome work. So thank you, Dwight, for coming on the show, making time for talking to us, and all you guys out there. The information you got now is worth thousands of dollars in consulting fees. So I can't tell you how much that's been worth. Now, I'm going to also touch briefly on a product. So this is a spoiler. If you stuck around this long, you've earned it. People have been asking us, especially in the last live stream, what about AC power? Well, PoE Texas is actually working on a PoE to AC inverter project. And that would take your PoE and give you an AC outlet. How cool is that? So stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date on this project as it comes around. Now, I am going to wrap up on a little paid programming. If you haven't felt like we've been paid programmed enough here doing our live stream right on Amazon, I'm going to be talking about a product that we have right here on Amazon, and I've spoken about it before my other live streams. It's our GPOES ATM 6.4. What is this thing? Why is it even worth talking about? Let me throw our title up on it right now. It is our 4-port Layer 2 managed PoE Plus switch. Now, what is this all about? It's rare to find such a small form factor Layer 2 managed switch in the price range of traditional PoE switches. So that's rare enough as it is. Now, my favorite feature on this product, though, is that the switch itself can be PoE powered. It does have a DC jack on the back, so you can power it with a traditional wall wart. But if you'd like to install this in the field where you don't have AC power, let me point to that port, you can also connect up to 802.3 BT PoE to get a 60-watt budget on the switch, all remote, no AC power locally. It's very cool. So it is perfect for live streaming applications where you need to add NDI cameras or where you want to remotely manage the services you're providing with PoE. And you have a small application. Like a key application here would be a PoE lighting and automation that's got low power sensors, and you want to do it in a star configuration rather than a daisy chain configuration. So you can buy this right now on Amazon. We've highlighted it down below. Let us know what you'd like to see us do with this very cool switch. We could do some live streams about this switch. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the show here, and thank you very much for coming. So let's wrap it up, everybody. So I'm going to give you the final call to action. Shout out to all of you out there. What would you like to see us cover over the next year? What cool new or existing technology would you like to learn more about? We love doing these live streams. Do you want to learn more about PoE lighting and automation? Do you want to learn more about live streaming? What do you want to learn more about? Hit the chat lines and tell us. We love producing the videos you'd like to see. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and most importantly, you can talk to us here. We check all of our Amazon reviews every day, and we will answer and get back to you. So don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know. You are who we make these videos for. So if you have found this video useful or helpful in any way, make sure that you share it. Share it with colleagues, share it with partners, share it with your customers. It is this kind of content that really builds your credibility as an expert in the PoE and automation field. So for Converge PoE, I'm going to give you some future notes here. We may be going silent for a month or so because we're preparing for some big online events this summer. And we'll keep you up to date on what's happening, especially if you're following on us on social channels. But get ready for some exciting content about PoE tablets and intelligent buildings. So everyone, thank you so much for coming. It is always a pleasure to have you here. We love doing these shows. We want to see you on the next live stream right here on Amazon or on Facebook and YouTube. I'm going to stick around on the chat line for a minute or two. Let me know what questions you have, and we will see you next time.